Hey folks, I'm Sarah and I'm on the 2025 jury for what I think is the best book prize for literary fiction from small presses. It's called the Republic of Consciousness Prize, United States and Canada, and it is dedicated to literary fiction from small presses in North America. Over the next few months, I will be sharing every single book nominated for the prize, and while I can't share my personal opinions on each book just yet, I will share enough details so that you can get to know the book and the publisher. Every book gets its very own video, and you are not going to want to miss a single one. Next up is book number 36, Benbecula by Graeme Macrae Burnet, published by Biblioasis. Malcolm McPhee lives alone on a sparsely populated Scottish island called Benbecula in the mid-19th century. He's basically an outcast in his community, struggling to survive. His main human contact is with a woman who stops by every few weeks to help him clean up, draw him a bath. Why she does this is a little bit of a mystery, but Malcolm spends most of his time pondering his situation and remembering the past. Because the reason for his isolation has to do with a major traumatic event that happened in his past, and his status as an outcast in the society is due particularly to heinous crimes committed by his younger brother Angus years before. And over the course of this short novel, Malcolm recalls his childhood with his two brothers and one sister and his parents, and as they kind of struggled to survive in this small community in the 1800s. So he remembers his childhood all the way up to the day of his brother's horrific crimes, and then a little bit of the aftermath of those crimes. It is a story about madness and about mental illness, and particularly about the lack of understanding of mental illness at that time. It's about poverty and work and about inherited family traits. It's also an immersive experience of small island Scottish life in the 1850s, 1860s. But most of all, it is an exploration of a small community, but particularly of what happens when you are an outcast within an already small community, and what happens when you are closely associated with an outcast in a small community. What does that do to your status if you are close to someone who is ostracized by a small, close-knit community? Graeme Macrae Burnet is the author of 5 novels, including Booker shortlisted His Bloody Project and the Booker longlisted Case Study, which was also named as one of the New York Times 100 Notable Books of 2022. He was born in Kilmarnock, Scotland, and now lives in Glasgow. And Biblioasis is a literary press based in Windsor, Ontario, who is committed to publishing the best poetry, fiction, and nonfiction in beautifully crafted editions. They happen to be one of the publishers I probably have the most books from, and they also have a great blog online called The Bibliophile that I highly recommend checking out. So this novella, I don't think I mentioned when I summarized it, this is based on a true story of a young man who murdered several members of his family in 19th century Scotland. And the facts in here are all based on letters and asylum, physician records and witness statements. And Graeme Macrae Burnet actually lays out his research and the general summaries of the contents of all those documents in a really comprehensive afterword, which was really rewarding to read through after reading the novella. And it goes really into detail about the case, what's known about the case and its aftermath. And I love historical fiction that takes really obscure historical events that maybe the author some kind of randomly came across somehow and then obsessed over so much that it eventually became a novel. And in the acknowledgments, Graeme Macrae Burnet says, I first came across reference to Angus McPhee's murders in Malcolm Archibald's book Whiskey Wars, Riots and Murder in the 19th Century Highlands and Islands, which was a book published in 2013. So obviously he came across this little story, this case, and obsessed over it and turned it into a whole novel. I would love to hear your examples of other novels that you have read that maybe started from that similar kind of seed, like a really obscure reference or historical event that an author became obsessed over and kind of expanded into a whole novel. I also love it when an author has a clear obsession that keeps coming up over and over again in their body of work, and I feel like Graeme Macrae Burnet has that. It seems like, just based on what I know of his other books, it seems like he's always layering these themes of madness and mental illness and violence and psychiatry. And in particular, it seems like the theme of misunderstanding of mental illness or psychiatric care that's based on like biases, either personal or cultural biases, based on what I know and I've read about his other books, that pops up a lot in his work. So I would love to hear examples from you of other authors who you love, who have a particular obsession that keeps coming out in their work. I feel like a lot of writers do that. They work their obsessions into all of their work. Maybe all writers do that to some extent. But anyway, I would love to know your examples in the comments, and this is my example for you. And that's just one of many incredible books nominated by one of many incredible publishers. The long list of 10 books is usually announced in mid-January-ish, but I guarantee you there are going to be more than 10 amazing books from these nominees. So if you love offbeat, under-the-radar literary fiction, you are going to want to follow along. Click above or below for the next nominated book. If I've filmed it, it'll be available there. If not, stay tuned for just a little while longer. And in the meantime, you can click the playlist below that will contain all of the nominated books that I've shared so far. Again, my name is Sarah. Thank you so much for joining me here. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.